feature story report obtained by the N Hour says consultant saw major red flags in potential Great Falls deal with Whitehorse. Consultant noted red flags with Whitehorse deal by Travis Jenkins T. Jenkins at onlinechester.com. A consultant engaged by the town of Great Falls noted red flags in a potential deal with the Whitehorse Company, which he said refused to turn over requested financial information and had a history of wanting land for free. Daniel Young boasts of 30 years of experience in economic development. He previously served as the executive director of the South Carolina Coordinating Council, serving under 3 governors, was responsible for the state's discretionary incentive programs and helped secure deals for the state with BMW, Volvo, Scout Motors, Michelin and many others. Per his bio on the website for the law firm Moore & Van Allen, for whom he now works, in his final 18 months on the job, he helped secure over $14 billion in new capital investment projects for South Carolina. It was Young that was brought in as a consultant for Great Falls, as it weighed striking a deal with Whitehorse. The two parties had ongoing discussions and informal negotiations going back more than 3 full years. Councilwoman Maria Rice, who resigned her seat on Great Falls Town Council last year when she moved out of the town limits, said on numerous occasions the town was engaged with 2 companies at one point, but that Whitehorse aggressively and effectively marketed itself to the public. Things finally took a more formal turn in February of last year, when the 2 parties entered into a formal memorandum of understanding MO. Per the terms of that MO, the town would not engage any other party in negotiations regarding the 3 former mill properties sought by Whitehorse for a period of 100 days. The company, which touts itself as the most comprehensive, cutting-edge armor solutions company, promised to bring its headquarters, including administrative offices, manufacturing facilities and a trade school, to Great Falls, creating about 280 jobs. After that MO was signed and work was being done to secure a binding agreement between Great Falls and Whitehorse, Young was brought in at a cost of $10,000. All of his reports to Great Falls Town Council were done verbally in executive sessions. However, when the topic of economic development Whitehorse was added to the agenda for a meeting on Monday, Mayor Josh Brantley requested a written memorandum from Young, which was provided in time for the meeting. It was dated January 6th of this year. The News and Reporter obtained a copy of the memorandum through a Freedom of Information Act request. Young noted that his association with the town began in April of 2024, which followed a meeting arranged by South Carolina Secretary of Commerce Robert Bobby Hitt that included Brantley and 3 or 4 other members of town council. Upon his reading of the MO, Young described it as being very broad, with a company promise to build sewing operations, retail facilities, a trade school and a headquarters in 3 phases on 4 pieces of property. The town frequently discussed 3 former mill properties, and Young's memorandum does not make clear what the 4th would be, that the town either already owned or believed they could get easily. I was late told by Bo Markhoff of Whitehorse that there were so many changes made by the council to the MO that Whitehorse had not agreed to, that any vote by the council was not on a draft he considered. Young had a copy of the proposed binding agreement and said it had what he considered to be a problem. That agreement called for Great Falls to acquire titles to the properties in question. Once remediation efforts were begun, the property would be assigned to Whitehorse or its designated affiliates. Within a reasonable period after executing this agreement, the company will provide satisfactory assurances from a financial institution that it has the funding and ability to see this project through to completion. Young said his interpretation of that language was that Whitehorse wanted the town to commit in a binding contract to turn over all the land before the town knew what the financial condition of the company was. This was a huge red flag, he said. In my 20 years of negotiating incentives on behalf of the state of South Carolina, I had learned that before a public entity entered into agreements with private entities where incentives such as cash or land were given to a private entity, the public entities always need to know the private entity has the financial wherewithal to complete and sustain the deal, or, if the entity was willing to risk some of the incentives, the public entities could establish gates where portions of the incentives could be handed over once some initial steps of the project were complete. With Brantley's permission, Young contacted Markhoff and said he believed there was a way to get a deal done. Young said he conveyed early on to Markhoff that he found the lack of financial information to be problematic and that the town needed access to the company's balance sheet to proceed. He said that Markov made it clear that he would not provide that information to the town because of how information about the potential project had been used in an application for infrastructure grants. Young said that was actually handled by the Catawba Regional Council of Governments. He also began to ask if Nations banker Gallo Wine, which was constructing a massive facility in Chester County at the time, wanted to come into town. Would they be required to provide their financial information? Young said the implication was that the state did not have any financial information from Gallo. Young responded that in his previous capacity with the state, he had enough financial information from Gallo to comfortably advise that the company had the financial wherewithal to complete their planned project and represented a good investment. By that time, the company had already invested more than $100 million in Chester County and had construction well underway. Young eventually visited the Whitehorse facility in Fort Mill personally, where this was a continuing theme with Markov. He said Markov continued to assert he would not be providing Young or the town with financials, which led to a verbal altercation between the two men. Young admitted that his frustration got the better of him during the exchange, and that he used language in a tone he should not have, for which he apologized to Markov. Young asked Markov to fill out a project profile sheet provided by the South Carolina Department of Commerce, which demonstrates a proposed schedule of job creation and investment in order to fashion potential incentive offerings. Markov said he had already been provided with one by Chester County Economic Development Director Robert Long, and that while he had completed it, he was not ready to share it with anybody. Any discussion of providing the land parcel in a phased-in method was a complete showstopper for Mr. Markov. The usual response was he was moving his whole family and needed all the land in the beginning. Young wrote. The memorandum notes that Markov had a state senator from Greenville County contact Young on his behalf. Young said when he explained to the unnamed Senator Whitehorse would not provide the town any financial information and wanted all the land at once. The senator questioned why he needed all 4 parcels from the beginning and understood why Great Falls was hesitant. Per Young, Great Falls offered to provide other parcels to Whitehorse, but they were refused, ostensibly because these properties did not have textile credits associated with them. Young said his work for the town ended following 2 meetings of Great Falls Town Council, where executive sessions became what I consider heated. During one of those, Young said Markov offered to buy the land at tax value and pay for remediation work. He did provide a bank statement during one of the meetings, and while Young did not look at it, he did not believe it had value, since a bank statement only shows how much money is in the bank at a moment in time, and does not show a company's debt, or whether it is actually earning or losing money. Young and Long recommended that the town get the land appraised so its value could be determined. Young agreed to help the town find some appraisers. All of them he contacted had questions he said he could not answer. At that point, Young said Brantley told him not to worry about it because the issue seemed to be subsiding, and that Young's services were no longer needed. Young also noted that Markov, on numerous occasions, intimated that he did not like the Catawba Nation because of an incident involving the Gallo wine site in Chester County. Nothing could be further from the truth, he said. There was an incident involving artifacts on the site that was quickly resolved to the satisfaction of everyone. What I did say based on a comment made by town council member regarding a potential casino. Don't bring the Catawbas in because the town did not want a casino. Both agreements contained vague language about the land going to Whitehorse and their partners, so no one knew who would be locating in the town for sure, Young said. In closing, Young said Markov mentioned on numerous occasions having looked in Chesterfield County during an event sponsored by the Northeastern Strategic Alliance, an economic development partnership of which Chesterfield County is a member. Young asked about their experience with Whitehorse. They relayed much the same story. The company wanted free land in their industrial park but were unwilling to provide any financial information. Young wrote, in September, Great Falls Town Council officially voted to not proceed with any negotiations with Whitehorse. Brantley said while he appreciated the company's interest, the town had to have evidence that Whitehorse was financially capable of doing what it claimed it would. He also said the company did itself no favors by threatening a lawsuit. Councilwoman Tiffany Craig, who like Brantley was once a supporter of the company coming to Great Falls, said the all-or-nothing attitude the company had about the land turned her off. Councilman Stephen McManus, likewise, said all the land was too steep a cost to pay. Councilman Willie Gonzalez, who supported a deal with Whitehorse, said it was a farce and ridiculous that the town should expect Whitehorse to turn over its financials. He said many of the residents that signed up to speak on the matter in a public forum were not qualified to speak on economic development. He mentioned that 400 residents signed a petition stating they supported the company, and that a deal would help undo 40 years of neglect the town had suffered. Brantley had planned to read Young's full report at Monday's meeting, but the agenda item dealing with Whitehorse was removed and not discussed. Guest column. Towns should follow advice of experts on Whitehorse by Chester County Councilman Mike Vaughn. Jan 7, 2025. Updated January 7, 2025. I am unable to attend the meeting tonight because Chester County Council meets tonight as well. My comments in this statement are based on the fact that I represent the citizens of Great Falls on Chester County Council. I swear an oath prior to serving my term, just like those who serve on Great Falls SC Town Council. Your oath states, as mayor, council member of the municipality of Great Falls, I will equally, fairly, and impartially, to the best of my ability and skill, exercise the trust reposed in me, and I will use my best endeavors to preserve the peace and carry into effect according to law the purposes for which I have been elected. So help me God. I feel that when we swear our oath, we commit ourselves to represent the best interests of our constituents. We commit to doing all of the work to learn all information on the issues we face prior to voting. This includes seeking the advice of experts when dealing with complex issues. In government, we often face complex decisions that will seriously impact our constituents for years. It takes hard work to learn what you need to know to best serve your constituents. Bad decisions and poor constituent representation are the result if you don't do the work. If you base your vote on the vote of another, or if you let personal vendettas be your main concern to drive your vote. On your agenda for executive session tonight is the topic of economic development with Whitehorse. In the recent past, the Great Falls Town Council sought the advice on this subject of several experts in economic development. Daniel Young, one of the most respected experts on economic development in SC, was paid by the town for advice on this subject. Mr. Young advised council on which should be required by the town prior to any deal with Whitehorse, and to date, Whitehorse has not met the requirements stipulated. Robert Long, Chester County Economic Development Director, early on gave the town council similar advice. Finally, town council voted to cease any negotiations with Whitehorse, a sound decision made on the advice of experts. I urge you to continue to take the advice of Mr. Young and Mr. Long, and to not enter into any kind of deal with Whitehorse, unless they comply with the town's requirements. There are highly reputable and proven developers interested in working in Great Falls. One such developer is the Sherbert Group. Their track record in economic development is spotless, and they have been highly successful in their projects. Reputable developers like this company are working all over the state on projects that can result in the revitalization of the communities in which they work. The citizens of Great Falls, whom you are supposed to represent, will either win or lose based on your actions. Please base your decisions on fact, not personal grudges.